by far, Jalen Hurts' best day of the summer.
Wow, great to hear with John. Everything you need to know about Eagles camp. Day number 5. It's Football 24/7 with John McMullen across the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. Johnny Mac, energized to begin week number 2. You're hanging around with head coach Nick Sirianni too much. You're attacking Football 24/7. Nice to have you here, my friend.
Nice to be with you, Krause. You got to attack everything. Yesterday, I attacked rest. That's what Nick Sirianni. You got to attack rest. You got to attack the day. You got to get 1% better. And I think the Eagles offense finally got a win today. If we're going offense, defense, I'm going to go for the first time. It's 4-1. I'm going to give it to the offense. I don't know. We'll talk to Nick Sirianni tomorrow. Maybe he'll let us in, but I thought it was better today from an offensive perspective, and that's a positive because it's been really difficult sledding for that side of the ball early in camp.
A lot to cover today, Johnny Mac, on your report here on this Monday. Let's start with the timeline that changed a little bit early this morning because the press conference with the coaches started before practice instead of post-practice. So you began your day in the press conference and then transitioned out of the press conference into practice. And then that's when everything else unfolded. But let's begin with the press conference this morning. Who spoke? What was said? What was it all about?
It was Shane Steichen, the offensive coordinator, for the first time this summer. So we got to talk to Shane. It's interesting because I think people forget. I mean, sometimes this is the first time this coaching staff has been doing it. So they're kind of feeling their way through the process as well. And it was Nick Sirianni who kind of told the PR staff that let's do this before practice. And then we'll talk to the players after practice. So he wanted to ship things up for the way he wanted to handle his day. So, everything's a work in progress. I talk about this all the time, Krause. Until you do it, you don't know. And Nick has never been a head coach in this league. So, maybe he got some advice. Just do it after practice. He didn't like it. He wants to get right into work, right in the film. So he wants to get it out of the way first thing in the morning, then get on the practice field. Little things like that doesn't mean much from a fan perspective, but it kind of tells you the enormity of the job, the things you got to think about. I always talk about, fans want to talk about X's and O's, understandably. They want to talk about play calling and things like that. He's got so many more things he's got to deal with on a given day, and that's difficult. And it's part of the thing that we always talk about. There's going to be some learning on the job for Nick Sirianni, and that's ongoing as we speak.
I am curious to Shane Steichen's comments this morning, especially since you began the Football 27 report today, Football 24/7 with John McMullen. You began the report by giving the nod or the hat tip to the offense, which would be a first, unofficially, of course, but it is a first. What did Shane or Coach Steichen have to say in the morning presser?
Well, I mean, there were a lot of things he was going over. Obviously, how Jalen Hurts has progressed in the first few days of practice. That was obviously first and foremost in most people's minds. Zach Ertz, his engagement with the playbook, the fact if he wants to be here or not, and he doesn't. So that's kind of a difficult hurdle for a young coaching staff to get over. I think maybe even an unnecessary one, Krause, if you want to talk from Howie Roseman's perspective. Everything from that to formational issues, I wrote about this 21 speed formation. The Eagles have been sort of unveiling, sort of throwing out there where Miles Sanders and Kenny Gainwell are on the field at the same time. Talked a little bit about that. I think we'll start with Jalen Hurts because the one thing you said, even though Jalen struggled in that first segment of camp, one thing you said was he didn't struggle throwing the deep ball, and that's true. It was more the intermediate stuff. It seems like, and the Eagles have said this before, Doug Peterson said this, they saw a lot of Russell Wilson type traits in Jalen Hurts. And one of the things Russell does very well is throw the deep ball. And Jalen has been doing that. Today was Quez Watkins. I was able to find Quez on a go route down the field. So that's been a positive at the start of camp. And, I say it all the time. And Jalen spoke after practice today, Jalen Hurts. And he said it again, get 1% better every day. It's a cliche, but he's gotten better in every practice, a little bit better. And today was by far his best practice. So it's going to be tough for him to get a little bit better tomorrow. Now we see if the consistency is there. Because this will be the first time where he's got maybe a difficult hurdle because he played pretty well. So can he get better from today? We'll see.
John, is this the first time that Zach Ertz has been quoted either directly or indirectly in stating that he does not want to be here? Did I hear you correctly on that?
No, that's not a direct quote from Zach. Zach hasn't talked to us. Zach talked to us in the offseason. Zach talked to us at the end of last season. You remember his emotional goodbye, his agent behind the scenes. Now, he doesn't want to be here. That's me saying that. From reporting, I'm hardly the only one. They've made it very clear, and the Eagles have made it clear that they want to move in a different direction as well. That's what makes this whole situation so strange, and the fact that Howie Roseman keeps playing this game of chicken. Because remember, Joe, you're out on that field, and Zach is out there practicing. He's due $8.5 million this year. If he gets hurt, you got to pay him. There's no salary cap relief for trading him. Can't trade him if he's hurt. So he's playing literally a game of chicken with Zach Ertz. And Zach, by the way, continues to wear his shorts inside out because he doesn't want to show the Eagles logo. It's a bit of a protest.
If Howie does nothing, what happens? Zach's on the 53-man roster?
Yeah, Zach's on the 53, making $8.5 million a year. You probably can't work out an extension with Dallas Goedert until next offseason. And you'll have to play more two tight end sets. So we talk a lot. I just mentioned 21 speed, 21 personnel, 11 personnel, which is 3 receivers. That's what Nick Sirianni would prefer to play. I got news for you. Zach Ertz is better than Travis Fulgham or Greg Ward, or if you want to go to the running backs, Kenny Gainwell. So if you're going to preach competition, how do you go in your locker room and say, we're going to play this style because I want to play this style and keep a better player on the bench? It makes things more difficult for Nick Sirianni. I think this is unneeded. I think the Eagles should have made a move before Zach showed up to camp.
There was an update today, Johnny Mac, on DeVonta Smith. Where tell us the update, tell us what it means, and tell us when is the next time DeVonta Smith will actually be participating in practice.
Well, he's got a sprained MCL, and the Eagles say they're not worried about it behind the scenes. 2 to 3 weeks has been the timetable. I would think it would be closer to the latter than the former. So if you do 3 weeks from today, August 2nd, you're talking about August 23rd. There should be time to be ready for week 1 in Atlanta. However, I will say, I doubt, if you want me to predict today, I doubt DeVonta Smith is going to see any preseason action in any of the preseason games. I would be stunned if he plays at all. And it's a rookie player. He's losing valuable reps. So you can talk about his talent. But to be a rookie and not be able to get all those reps in training camp, that's a big blow. And that's the best case scenario. That 2 or 3 weeks. That's the best case scenario. So it's going to set him back. And all of a sudden, we've talked about that domino effect. You've heard me talk about that in a positive direction, what DeVonta Smith does for that wide receiving corps, what Steve Nelson does for the cornerback group. Now it's the opposite. It's a domino effect in a negative direction. Jalen Reagor's got to step up and be a wide receiver 1. He's not a wide receiver 1. Greg Ward, all due deference to my partner, Jody Mack, you don't want him on the field. You got to get better. Travis Fulgham, it's not a good group. And you're making things more difficult for Jalen Hurts. I wouldn't be surprised if the Eagles start kicking the tires on trying to pick up more of a veteran presence at wide receiver at some point this summer.
Man, when I hear you describe it like that, Johnny Mac, I immediately go back to just a season ago where I felt, doesn't necessarily mean it's correct, but I felt Carson didn't have the weapons.
No, he didn't. He didn't.
If Jalen doesn't have the weapons, then how can we or anyone or Jalen himself expect to be better, expect to lead this team into a position where they can compete with their opponent?
Well, a lot of people have asked that question. Can you fairly evaluate Jalen Hurts without the proper weapons around him? Now, the Eagles have high hopes that Miles Sanders will bounce back and have a good year at running back. They think Dallas Goedert is ready to break out and be a top-tier tight end in this league. So part of it is good, but the receiving group was relying too much on a rookie, number one. I mean, look, I think the kid is tremendously talented, but that is a lot of pressure to put on a rookie receiver to go out and say, okay, you're the guy, and you got to make everybody better. And you saw it in the first 4 days of camp. At times, DeVonta Smith struggled a little bit with press coverage, probably a little bit too much press coverage from where they should be in camp. Darius Slay showed him some veteran tricks of the trade, so to speak. Steve Nelson got really physical with him. So, he was kind of feeling his way healthy, and then he gets hurt, and that's going to set him back. Best case scenario, 2 weeks. Worst case scenario isn't 3. It's probably 4 or 5 weeks.
And then potentially if it's 5, I don't want to speculate. I don't understand the medical intricacies that go with it. But if it is 5, you're into maybe not playing in the opening game in Atlanta, which is on the 12th. Or you think that includes potentially going out to that?
Well, I just, when I hear MCL, there's a lot of different grades. I mean, Isaac Seumalo had a sprained MCL, missed half the season. Ultimately, he had to have surgery, so he had a very serious MCL injury. The Eagles behind the scenes are insistent this is not that serious. So from their standpoint, it's probably the best as far as the grades go when you talk about MCL sprains. And you just have to hope that that turns out to be true. And it's a multiple week injury, and you're just taking away preseason work and preseason reps. And he'll be there week one, but how ready will he be ready to play without that preseason work, without those training camp reps? We'll have to wait and see.
Football 24/7 with John McMullen across the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. It's our week 2, day 5 camp report. Everything you need to know about Eagles camp, you get it from John McMullen, who starts his day early and works into the night. Johnny Mac, Brandon Brooks did not return to the field last week. He was off, I guess, for Veterans Day. He did not practice. Did he practice on Saturday or no? He did or he didn't?
No, he didn't.
What's his status update as of today?
Yeah, he didn't practice today as well. The Eagles are just being cautious. Brandon, though, actually spoke to us after practice from the podium. So that's an indication that he's okay, because if you're injured, you're not going to be made available to the media. So Brandon's a little bit different. They're being really cautious with Brandon. But Brandon's a veteran player. Brandon's been doing this for a long time. To be perfectly blunt, Brandon doesn't need preseason work, doesn't need a lot of practice reps. And, you know, the goal for him, the goal for a veteran player is to get him to week 1 as healthy as possible. And, you know, it's a little bit different, as I said, with DeVonta Smith as a young rookie. There's a lot of work to be done. He's not used to the NFL game. You want to get him up to speed as quickly as possible. So I think it's two different situations. But I wouldn't be concerned about Brandon at all. He doesn't need to play in any preseason games. The issues with him are health concerns, obviously, and the fact that he's had 2 torn Achilles over the past 3 years. And the last thing you want to do is push him with a tweaked hamstring. So the Eagles are being very cautious, and that's probably the right way to go with Brandon Brooks.
Another player on the roster who doesn't really need to participate in training camp is Ryan Kerrigan, I would think. But he was injured today. Tell me what it is or what it was, and is it anything to be concerned about? I like Ryan Kerrigan. I loved the signing when they signed Ryan Kerrigan. Anything to worry about, John?
Yeah, we'll get more information tomorrow morning. What I can tell you is Ryan got walked off the field shaking his hand. It was his right hand, and he was in some pretty significant pain. I went to the medical tent and then moved inside to the NovaCare complex and did not return to practice. So he might be hurt a little bit, but, you know, defensive ends, edge rushers, a hand, they'll tape that thing up and go. So, again, they'll probably be, because it's a veteran player, even though it's a new system for him, Ryan's played a lot of football. The Eagles know what he is as a player, know who he is as a player. I imagine they're going to be very cautious. But week 1, as I said, even if he's got a broken hand or something like that, you've seen defensive linemen, they'll play with a club on their hand. I wouldn't imagine that Ryan would miss any regular season work with that type of injury.
Football 24/7 with NFL insider John McMullen. John,
now, real quick, I'm just listening to myself. Sorry, Krause. If it's some kind of ligament thing that needs surgery, that could be a little bit different. So, again, we'll get more clarity probably tomorrow morning at practice on what exactly is going on with Ryan. So hopefully we'll have to monitor the situation. You never say never in this league. If he tore a thumb ligament or something like that, and he has to get surgery, that could cost him some time. But it's still too early to tell on that one.
No pads today again. Scheduled to put the pads on starting tomorrow. Is that true and true?
It is true. It'll be the first time they have pads on tomorrow. Now, understand that doesn't mean they're going to have pads. It's very scaled back rules in the modern NFL that limit how many times you can wear pads. But you have this ramp up period. Tomorrow's the first day the Eagles can be in pads. They will be in pads. And that's where the left tackle competition, for instance, will really ramp up. There's certain positions, offensive line, running back, especially, you got to see the guys in pads. So we're going to get to see Jordan Mailata versus Andre Dillard. And they've been rotating. It was Andre's day today. So Jordan will get the opportunity to be with the first team tomorrow in the first day of pads. And that's a big break for him. That gives him a little bit of an advantage early on in that competition.
How did Andre Dillard do today, John?
Yeah, I've been talking about this a lot today because, people have declared Jordan Mailata the winner through 5 days of camp. And, everybody likes Jordan. Great personality, great guy. Tremendous physical specimen, 6'8", 360, 370, moves like he's 250. I mean, he's an athletic marvel. But, a lot of people look at one-on-one drills. So I dug in my notebook. I got a Jeff Stoutland quote. Look, I watched Jordan Mailata from the day he got here. If one-on-one drills meant anything to Jeff Stoutland, he wouldn't even be here today to be in this competition because he used to get beat like a drum on a daily basis by Joe Ostman because he didn't know how to play. He was just learning from ground zero. The first day I met Jordan, he didn't know how to put on a football helmet. That's where he was when he first got here. So it's been an amazing journey. He's come so far, but I see so many people saying, "Oh, Jordan looks better in one-on-ones." And people should go to my Twitter account at JF McMullen. You can see Jeff Stoutland's quotes. Look, you're supposed to win one-on-ones. The offense is supposed to win 7-on-7s. You're supposed to be able to complete passes against 7-on-7. One-on-ones with receivers and defensive backs always favor the receivers. One-on-one defensive line versus offensive line always favor the defensive line. Always, always, always.
I want to paraphrase your conversation on Birds 365, John, so feel free to correct it or agree with it. I listened to your conversation with Jody Mack and Jeff Kerr, who's sitting in your chair while you're covering camp, on the Dillard situation. You believe it's Dillard's job to lose, not Mailata's to win. Is that correct?
Yeah, I do believe that for this reason, because of the GM. And I use the example, and I'm talking about Howie Roseman. People are going to get upset by that, but it's not just Howie Roseman. And I gave the example of Jordan Hicks, who's everybody remembers him, the ex-Eagles linebacker. Well, the Arizona Cardinals drafted a linebacker in the first round. Steve Keim called Jordan up. He's the GM with Arizona and said, look, you're not going to compete for the starting job. This kid is the starter. Andre Dillard was drafted in the first round. Howie Roseman wants him to succeed. Every GM is like that. He's going to give him every opportunity to win that job. and I've compared it to a heavyweight boxing match. And those old school, if you were the heavyweight champion of the world, you either had to get knocked out or you had to get really, really beaten badly. If it was close, they'd give you the deference and say, this is the champ. We're going to keep the title on him. That's what it's like being a first-round pick in this league. You're given deference. So Jordan's got to win that job clearly. If it's close, they're going to give it to Dillard. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying Jordan won't win the job. I'm saying he's got to significantly outplay Andre Dillard.
A couple other things, Johnny Mac, before we wrap up your Day 5 report, week number 2 here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. I do want to get your Day 5 Jalen Hurts report. We did talk about it earlier in the segment, but just his body of work today. And how did my buddy Joe Flacco do? Did he make any noise? Did anybody see Joe Flacco at practice today?
Well, we always see Joe, obviously. But first off, Jalen, he has his best day of the summer by far. And you could tell he was feeling it early on. First 2 passes were out patterns, almost identical routes to the opposite side of the field. First, he was throwing to his left to Travis Fulgham, about 12, 13 yards, way on the sideline. So takes arm strength. You got to get it out on time. Got to get the football there, and he was able to do it. Then they did the exact same thing on the other side to Zach Ertz. He hit them both. Great passes. And that's been the struggle early on, has been the intermediate stuff, where he's been wildly inconsistent. So he's a lot better. He had another go route for a touchdown to Quez Watkins that got the people fired up. Had a number of nice screen passes, so you could see the timing developing. He had a bubble screen to Quez Watkins for a touchdown. So Quez got my practice game ball of the day. By far, Jalen Hurts' best day of the summer.
Wow. Great to hear with John McMullen. Last thing I want to cover with you, John, just so we all understand why it's done. 2 veteran contracts today, restructured by the team. I know that's normal behavior. Is there anything to it other than that?
No, I mean, you're always trying to create. Remember, the Eagles don't have a ton of space, and they have even less space than they should have from a salary cap standpoint when it comes to Zach Ertz, and we've talked about him and the $8.5 million. So you're always looking to tweak deals. You're always looking for salary cap relief. It's one of the things that Howie Roseman does best, to be honest. And it's his strength as a general manager. So when we always talk about, if we look forward to 2022, and by the way, we haven't gotten to that. We probably should really quickly, because Carson Wentz is going to undergo surgery. There's some good signs, later reports. He might be able to get back week 1. But they gave a really shaky timetable, 5 weeks to 12 weeks. If it's the worst case scenario, there's no way the Eagles are getting a first round pick. There's no way he meets the conditions. And that hurts them as far as moving forward, whether they want to go after a quarterback next year or whatever they want to do. But they have significant draft capital, and they will have significant salary cap space. And that's what Howie's been doing this whole time, setting up more for 2022.
I know Jeff Kerr brought up a name that we haven't heard the last couple of days. Has Deshaun Watson's name surfaced at all?
Not in a good way.
The weeds, or in the press conferences?
Not in a good way, because there was one of the accusations became public on, I think it was an Instagram show. And so public relations hit. Everybody can read it. Just Google it if you want to read it. Some pretty disturbing allegations. To this point, they're all allegations, though. I keep saying this. There is no charges from a criminal perspective. He's not on the commissioner's exempt list. He is at Houston's training camp. At some point, this league's going to have to make a decision.
And by the way, Johnny Mac, all those accusations were investigated by law enforcement. Not only forget about the NFL for a moment.
Yeah.
There were no charges presented, no charges pressed against him after an investigation.
Well, the Houston PD still has an open file on the case. It has not closed the case, but to date, they have not charged him with anything. I've talked to a number of lawyers about this. Not saying this is right, not saying this is wrong, but when it comes to these types of allegations, the more timing that passes, it becomes more difficult to prove the case from a prosecutorial conduct. So, in other words, if the prosecutor believes it can't win the case, it has a duty to not bring the case and waste the time of and the money and the allocation and the budget. So people around the league do not think Deshaun is ultimately going to be charged with anything. And when that book is closed, I think it speeds up the process.
Great stuff tonight from Johnny Mac. Quickly, John, what is tomorrow's schedule? We know it's pads. What does it look like?
Same as today. Nick Sirianni will be speaking before practice. Practice starts at 10 a.m. sharp, and they will have the pads on for the first time today.
And we will be right back here tomorrow night on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel with Football 24/7 with NFL insider John McMullen, co-host of Birds 365. You'll find them on Sports Illustrated. You'll find them in Philly Voice. Lots of stuff, Johnny Mac. Wall-to-wall coverage. Great job by you. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Krause.
All right. That's going to do it tonight. We thank everybody for tuning in to the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. We'll be right back here tomorrow with everything you need to know about Eagles camp. See you next time, everybody. Today's show on the JAKIB Media channel. Listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.